Welcome, everyone, for this new episode of podcast Sociology In. I am Mabrouk Boutagouga, a member of the Executive Committee of the International Sociological Association. And I am delighted to host Professor Djamel Mahtouk, a professor of higher education at Boutagouga University in Algeria, and a former dean of the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences. Professor Djamel has authored over 25 books with a particular interest in writing and documenting the history of sociology in Algeria, especially, and in the Maghreb and the Arab world in general. In this episode, we will discuss the sociology in Algeria, a North African Arab country that endured more than a century of French colonization. Welcome, Professor Djamel. It's interesting and maybe a little troubling that the roots of this field here in Algeria are so tied in colonialism. Can you explain how this all started?
Yes, Mabrouk, sociology, as it emerged in Algeria, was not born out of natural or organic demand from the society. It was imposed during the colonial period to, serve the colonizers' interests. French officers, anthropologists, and ethnologists like René Monnier, and even military personnel, such as Colonel Duflo, began conducting studies to understand Algerian society, not for academic enlightenment, but to reinforce the colonial project.
So they actually used sociology as a tool for colonization?
Yes, absolutely. These studies weren't neutral. They were strategic. For example, Colonel Duflo, he conducted surveys on religious brotherhoods in Algeria, examining their assets, their allegiances, whether they posed any threats to the colonizers. It was very calculated.
So instead of sociology being used to help people understand themselves, it was used to control them?
Exactly. Adding to this, many colonial sociologists propagated myths, what we call the Berber myth, the Arab myth, and even the Islamic myth. These narratives exaggerated differences in the local population, like between Berbers and Arabs, or emphasized certain aspects of Algerian identity to sow division and justify the French presence here. It fractured the social fabric deeply.
That's heavy. And those myths left a lasting mark, didn't they? Professor, we're still dealing with the effect today in how Algerian identity feels fragmented.
Yes, Mabrouk, that fragmentation hasn't disappeared. It's an enduring legacy of colonial sociology. But what's particularly frustrating to me, as someone who studied this field deeply, is how disconnected all of this colonial work was from our actual intellectual heritage. You see, long before the French ever arrived, we had one of the greatest minds in sociology, a man named Ibn Khaldun. He articulated sociological theories centuries earlier.
Yes, Ibn Khaldun, the famous scholar, the author of Al-Muqaddimah.
Yes, the Muqaddimah. Mabrouk, I still remember the first time I held a copy of his work. I was just a young student, curious, searching for answers about our identity. And there it was, a foundation framework for analyzing human societies, written more than 4 centuries before modern sociology took shape in Europe. And do you know where he wrote much of it? In Algeria, in a fortress in Tiaret province. But despite this, Arab scholars neglected his work. And it was the Europeans, the French and English Orientalists, who revived his teachings, integrating them into their early sociological theories.
Yeah, that's true, Professor. We had this incredible legacy, but instead of building on it, we ended up importing something completely foreign.
Exactly. And this detachment meant that for a long time, sociology here was not about understanding Algerians. It was about categorizing them, controlling them. This laid a foundation that even after independence was very difficult.
Professor, after independence in 1962, Algeria must have faced some unique challenges trying to rebuild and redefine sociology as a discipline. How did the field begin to evolve post-colonial rule?
Well, Mabrouk, when Algeria gained independence, the first challenge was inheriting the colonial academic structures. These structures were heavily influenced by French educational systems, and sociology remained an extension of what you would call French sociology. It wasn't adapted to the Algerian reality or context.
So it wasn't really Algerian sociology, even after independence?
Exactly. In the early years from 1963 to 1970, sociology wasn't even taught as a standalone discipline. It was tied to departments like philosophy or political science. And the programs used, they were still imported directly from France. This made it, how to put it, difficult to address the societal and cultural needs of Algeria at that time.
Professor, when did Algeria start breaking away from that influence and shaping sociology into something more local?
That came during the 1970s, the second phase. The state began reforms, introducing changes to the university system. For example, the sociology department was put under the leadership of Emile Sika, but ironically, Sika was more specialized in European sociology rather than anything related to the Arab or African world. So progress was slow.
Wait, Professor. They brought in someone with no connection to Algeria's specific context? That seems counterproductive.
It was Mabrouk. But during this time, the first generation of Algerian sociologists started emerging. People like Dr. Farouk Ben Attia became leaders in the discipline, even though the number of local graduates was still very small. His tenure was unfortunately brief due to ideological and linguistic conflicts within the academic community.
Conflicts? What kind of conflicts are we talking about, Professor?
You see, Algeria in the 1970s and 80s was a culturally and politically charged environment. Academic institutions were caught in debates over Arabization and Algerianization. During the third phase in the 1980s, the government pushed for Arabization in education, but it was done without a clear scientific or structured plan. It was more emotional than rational, I would say.
Yes, that's true, and led to some serious challenges.
Yes, very serious ones. The process created instability in universities. Courses switched languages abruptly, and many qualified professors fluent only in French struggled or even left the field altogether. It disrupted the overall quality of sociology as an academic discipline.
And then came the 1990s, what we call in Algeria the Black Decade. I imagine that was a whole different kind of challenge.
Yes, the Black Decade, that a terrible period of terrorism. Many sociologists were directly affected. Professor Boutagouga, for example, was assassinated. Others, like Dr. Ali Elkens, fled the country. It was devastating. Sociology as a whole vanished almost entirely during that time. Universities became unsafe, and those who stayed struggled to make sense of the chaos unfolding around them.
Yeah, that's true, Professor. It was a difficult time, especially for science that's supposed to help us to understand society better, to see it paralyzed like that.
Indeed, Mabrouk. But the deeper issue was that most sociological work at the time didn't truly connect to Algeria's reality. Too much of it was inspired by foreign theories and contexts that didn't align with the unique challenges here. Sociologists often fail to predict critical events like the October 1988 protests or the full extent of the 90s violence.
Professor, as I've understand, the sociology was disconnect from the society. It was a science that wasn't serving its purpose.
Yes, and that disconnect is something we still grapple with, even beyond the Black Decade.
Professor Djamel, now we have examined the challenging history of sociology in Algeria from its colonial past through independence and afterward. Today, it seems that the field is at a key turning point. What changes do we expect to see? What do you think will happen now?
Mabrouk, sociology in Algeria today is in what I'd call a very fragile state. There is a growing sentiment, both within academia and in society at large, that sociology doesn't provide practical solutions to the pressing issues we face as a nation.
You mean like problems with the deviance, social chaos, even stuff like poverty or urban planning?
Exactly. These are major challenges, and sociology should theoretically be equipped to address them, but instead, it's often dismissed as a theoretical science. Some even call it talking science, as though it has no relevance outside the classroom. And this perception isn't entirely unfounded, unfortunately.
Why is that, Professor? Why?
Well, one big reason is the lack of effective reform in academic sociology. Past attempts to reform the discipline were poorly planned, either driven by emotion, like during the Arabization era, or they failed to adapt to local realities. Our academic programs remain disconnected from the lived experiences of Algerians. For example, we rely too heavily on Western theories and frameworks that don't fully apply to our context.
But Professor, this should be changed. Someone is working to change this, right? There must be some kind of innovation happening with the discipline.
Yes, there are some who have recognized the need for innovation. One promising idea is fostering cross-disciplinary collaborations, bringing sociologists together with professionals in fields like urban development, public policy, or even media. This allows sociological insights to be applied more directly to analyze and address real-world issues like housing crises or social inequalities.
So instead of sociology just studying society, it actually helps shape it in practical ways.
Exactly, Mabrouk. That's how sociology can reclaim its relevance by becoming a part of the solutions, not just the analyses. But this requires a shift in how the discipline is taught and practiced, moving away from purely theoretical approaches.
I think this type of change will not happen overnight. It's not only about professors and students. It also includes rules, money, and how society thinks. Many things need to change.
You're absolutely right. It's a systemic issue. And on top of that, Algerian society itself needs to adjust its view of sociology. We need people to realize that this is not just an academic exercise. It's a discipline that can and should help us navigate the complexities of modern life in Algeria.
Well, I'm really hoping that this change will happen soon, Professor. I must say this talk has been very interesting. I think you have given us all some good ideas to think about regarding sociology and its future in Algeria.
Thank you, Mabrouk, and thank you for shining a light on these issues. It's conversations like this that start the process of change.
I completely agree, Professor. Now we will finish for today. Professor Djamel Mahtouk, thank you very much for this great episode. Our listener, thank you very much for listening us. See you in the next episode. Greeting from Algeria.